This retelling draws from Scripture and reflects one perspective on the passage discussed. Different traditions and scholars read these passages in different ways. We encourage you to read the full passage yourself and reach your own understanding. In the Gospel of Matthew, specifically in chapter 18, we encounter the parable of the unforgiving servant. This story, nestled within Jesus' teachings on forgiveness and reconciliation, invites deep reflection on the nature of mercy and the responsibilities that come with it. The parable begins with a king who wished to settle accounts with his servants. One servant, who owed an enormous debt, easily understood as a sum far beyond what he could repay, was brought before the king. Unable to pay, he begged for mercy, promising to repay everything. Moved by compassion, the king forgave him entirely, releasing him from this overwhelming burden. However, upon leaving the king's presence, the same servant encountered a fellow servant who owed him a mere fraction of what he had been forgiven. Instead of extending the mercy he had just received, he seized his fellow servant by the throat, demanding payment. When his peer pled for patience, just as he had done before the king, the unforgiving servant refused and had him thrown into prison until the debt could be repaid. News of this injustice reached the king, who summoned the unforgiving servant back. The king, filled with wrath, reminded him of the mercy he had received and reproached him for his lack of compassion. In turn, the king handed him over to be tortured until he could repay the original debt, a reflection of the harsh reality that unwillingness to forgive can lead to one's own undoing. This parable carries profound significance, particularly in the way it frames judgment and forgiveness. It creates a clear illustration of the consequences that arise from an unforgiving heart. Many scholars conclude that this narrative emphasizes the transformative power of mercy, where forgiveness is not merely a passive state, but an active choice reflecting the grace one has received. In the kingdom of heaven, as depicted by Jesus, mercy is a reciprocal condition. The depth of one's own forgiveness is inevitably entwined with their willingness to forgive others. Thus, the parable suggests that the practice of forgiveness can serve as a means of spiritual correction, fostering not only interpersonal healing, but also personal growth. It challenges us to consider how we respond to the shortcomings of others, particularly in light of our own imperfections. In closing, this parable invites us to reflect on the transformative journey of grace and forgiveness, one that leads us toward a deeper understanding of our interconnectedness and our shared need for mercy.